Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, Pat Sajak is celebrating his 40th year of hosting Wheel of Fortune.
Well, Tony Kornheiser, wouldn't anybody get bored hosting the same show every day for decades now?
Yeah, anything more than 10 or 12 years. What are you doing? You're wasting people's time. They get tired of you. Huh?
21 years.
Stop.
You grow old in front of America. You look god-awful most of the time. I can't even look. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, more troubles for the Suns. Notre Dame needs a win, and David Pollack joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Chiefs beating the Chargers last night, 27-24, mostly on the late 99-yard pick-six interception of Justin Herbert. Herbert and Patrick Mahomes are young star quarterbacks in the league, though Herbert appeared to have significant rib pain late in the game after a couple of big hits. Wilbon, what was your takeaway from this game?
The rib pain. A couple of hits, multiple hits, and then just being unable to be himself. And he's great, by the way. Yeah. I mean, fully, healthy. He's just great. I mean, he may be the guy who bumps up against Patrick Mahomes in years to come and in the same division if they stay with those teams. So that's it for me, Tony. There's no grand takeaway on a one-score game, even though that play has got to remind you, I know it reminds you, of the Cardinals and the Steelers in the Super Bowl some years ago. And the Cardinals should have had a Super Bowl to their credit without that play. So that play stands out as a play. But in terms of what I'm going to carry maybe into next week or wonder about later this week or tomorrow at least, it's that rib injury and how healthy he's going to be going forward.
So honestly, my original takeaway from the game was if you didn't have Amazon and you sprung for Amazon, you got your money's worth. I didn't even know I had Amazon. I did, so I wasn't up on a roof with an antenna trying to bring the game in. So I felt pretty good about that. It is so far, by the way, if you look at the Chargers, it's a tough start. They have the Raiders, a playoff team. They have the Chiefs, a playoff team. Mike, their next 6 are a lot easier. Jaguars, Texans, Browns, Broncos, Seahawks, Falcons. Probably should be 5-1 with that. But I'm reminded, when I watch that game, I'm reminded of what you have said for years about the San Diego and now Los Angeles Chargers. That they take naps at some point during the season. That you don't trust them during the season. This was a game they could have won, maybe should have won, maybe, and they found a way to give it away late in the game, right? So that's always been your theory about
them.
them.
And it might be.
I was talking to Jason Lockenfora today, our friend, on the podcast this morning, and Jason said if you're going to go into Kansas City, the Chargers had to have a bigger lead at the end of the half. Because he's been to too many games in Arrowhead where the Chargers do something at halftime and then they come back, close you out. They may not beat the spread, but they win the game, and that's what they did last night. By the way, Tony,
last night I discovered Amazon didn't deliver to my house. I found it, didn't deliver to my house, 6:33 left in the third. The screen goes out. I got 1,000 channels and internet on everything. Amazon out, didn't deliver. Amazon, amazing. So, luckily, SportsCenter delivered the rest of it to me.
Send a truck to your house in an hour.
Yeah.
There is movement in the Robert Sarver story, which you might think is going to continue.
Yes, I do.
The Suns owner with the second largest stake in the team behind Sarver, John Najafi, called for Sarver to resign in an open letter to team employees. And PayPal, which sponsors the Suns jerseys, said it will no longer do that if Sarver comes back. Wilbon, what impact do you expect these developments to have on Adam Silver and the rest of the NBA owners?
Doesn't need to impact Adam Silver or the NBA owners. This is a civic uprising in part, Tone. It's a drip now, but it's louder than that. I've been on the phone and receiving texts today from people in Arizona where I spent a chunk of my time. And repeatedly, I'm hearing he's not going to make it because, PayPal pulled out. And I'm getting texts from people, including folks in the business community, saying, this guy's pulling out and they're about to pull out and there's going to be more of this. That's what I'm being told right now in live time. And so, Tony, it's not about Adam Silver and it's not about the other owners. You can receive, people back east, back here where you and I are, they think Phoenix is some outpost still. And the Dionne Warwick singing, by the time I get to Phoenix, like it's 1966. It's not. Oh, that was Do You Know the Way to San Jose? I confused my Western cities. It's the 5th or 6th, I think the 5th largest city in America. It's a big place, and there can be agitation. It doesn't have to be New York City to have people get upset and say, enough. We're not having that. That seems to be what's happening there now to Robert Sarver.
Yeah, small little point here. I think Glenn Campbell had the original hit by the time I get to Phoenix.
He did. You're right.
Glenn Campbell. So my feeling about this is there is a tipping point in everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've reached that tipping point
Not yet. Not yet.
I don't think one sponsor can do it, and I don't think that a co-owner who may want to buy the team himself can do it. I have always thought the players could do it, and I still believe that if the Phoenix Suns as a group, a united group, say, we're not playing, then we're done if he's going to own the team. And I think Adam Silver has to listen to that. I have thought about Adam Silver. You and I differ on this. I believe that Adam Silver has to be uneasy right now. I believe he has to wonder, have I lobbied the players enough from my point of view? Have I lobbied the owners enough from a point of view? Is his footing sure at this point? Because I think, like you, there could be a tidal wave. I think there could be a lot of sponsors.
And Tony,
I think that there could be a lot of players. The players have to say we, not I.
Yeah.
But I think there could be a lot of players.
We don't disagree on Adam Silver at all on any of that. That's my point is a different point. Phoenix to you may as well be Europe. It's not to me. It's the place that I know to some degree. Tony, people are not.
I've been at your house.
Yeah, you have been to my house. It was a while ago.
I have.
People are not happy, Tony. They are unhappy. And what I'm saying to you is civic pressure brought to bear. That will also resound with Adam Silver, even if he's in New York and even if he's like you and he thinks it's 20,000 miles away instead of 2,500. I'm just saying stuff is brewing there. One withdrawal does not create that tidal wave. Let's see where this is going. That's all I'm saying.
How did I become anti-Phoenix? I like Phoenix. How did I become anti-Phoenix?
You don't come out enough.
You people? Is this a you people situation?
Yeah, you're worried about the javelina. You and Stephen A. You got to stop with the javelina and Greeny. Oh, wait, all you New Yorkers. Let's go to college football and Notre Dame hoping to get its first win of the season tomorrow. The Irish lost to Ohio State in week 1 and Marshall in week 2. Now face 2-0 Cal in South Bend. Tony, new Notre Dame coach Marcus Freeman is 0-3 if you include last year's bowl game loss. Does tomorrow's game then already feel like a must-win for him?
It certainly does to me. You know how I think about Notre Dame. That's the University of college football in America. That is the most beloved and the most polarizing school that plays college football.
Amen.
And they hired a coach who had never blown a whistle as a head coach anywhere in his life. I know the players love him. Do the fans love him? Do the alums love him? Do the donors love him? If he starts 0-4, how do you tamp down the commentary on 0-4 at that point? I do think he has to win, Mike, and I think he should. I mean, Cal's 2-0, but what is Cal exactly? They're a mediocre team in a bad conference. They have beaten UC Davis. They've beaten UNLV. Really, what is that? They were 5-7 last year. But I think Notre Dame's got to win this game. I'm not saying it's a Scott Frost situation, but you don't want to get on that train. You don't want to get on it.
Okay, but is Cal in a better conference than Marshall? Yes, they are.
Yes.
I mean, so it's a must-win in this way, Tony. The discussion can overwhelm you in South Bend. It can. And yes, and around, regionally, and then it just sort of ripples out around the country. Is he going to get fired? No, Notre Dame's not going to do what Nebraska did with Scott Frost. They're just not going to do that.
No.
But, Tony, I was a young pup, 22 years old, and I had to remember when our dear boss, your former boss, George Solomon, sent me to South Bend to write about Jerry Faust. How about that name? 1981, I think it was, and I think he went 5-6. And, Tony, you would have thought the world was coming to an end. Now, Notre Dame had not had sort of some of the disappointment by 1981 that it has had by now. But Jerry Faust was a guy who had never blown a whistle as a college head coach. He had come from high school.
High school coach.
And it just underscores how difficult it is to go to Notre Dame and sort of ride that mule. Man, it's hard. And so I root for, I don't ever root for Notre Dame, but I root for Marcus Freeman, not in any one school situation against an opponent, but just I am tomorrow. I don't want to see him get off to this kind of start, and it's close to must. They're not going to fire him if he loses, but in other contexts, it is must win.
But Notre Dame never starts 0-3. You just can't do that. Let's take a break. Coming up is Jimbo Fisher. College game day usually comes to us from a traditional college football powerhouse, but this week it's at Appalachian State. See, I said Appalachian, not Appalachian. I got that right. Where we find our great friend, even though he's like 70 years younger than us, Mr. David Pollack. And we're going to start with this, David.
60 years younger.
App State beat Texas A&M last week. Boom. The Aggies try to bounce back against number 13 Miami. How concerned should A&M be about losing again this week?
Well, it's interesting. It's very much like basketball, and you guys obviously get to talk basketball. But App State is a team that has the seniors, the upperclassmen. A&M's very young, growing, developing, highly recruited kids, but they haven't played together like in basketball. When you see those mid-majors have a lot of success, so A&M's going to be fine. They made the quarterback switch to Max Johnson, which had to happen. Max fits Jimbo Fisher's personality better. He'll throw the football better through the air. Their offense will become more dynamic. Their defense has been great throughout the season. They got a rough stretch coming up, but they needed to make a decision at quarterback. They needed to go with the best thrower, and so switching to Max Johnson, I think, will pay dividends right away.
David, we don't get to often ask you about BYU, number 12 now, but they've beaten the top 10 team in Baylor. Now they're going on the road to number 25, Oregon. Is BYU actually any good?
They are good. And Mike, here's what's going to be interesting about this. When I look at BYU, remember, they're not a group of five. They're an independent. So they're like Notre Dame. So, but you got a big win against Baylor, a top 10 win. You still got Notre Dame on the schedule. You got a top 25 Oregon, and then you got the Big Daddy with Arkansas, who's in the top 15. So they've got some ability to make some noise. They play physical. If you watch the BYU Baylor game, you're sore the next day just from watching that game. I mean, they were absolutely thumping each other. BYU's got a grown offensive line, a quarterback in Jaron Hall that is a stud that will be drafted highly in the NFL draft next year. Good mobility. They've already felt adversity. They've out their best two wide receivers for the first couple games and still making plays. BYU will be very interesting. If they can go to Oregon and get through Oregon, you look at the schedule, there's a lot of layups, but there's also Notre Dame and Arkansas, a couple big brands that could help them and maybe put them in the college football playoff conversation.
All right, we go from a team that could make some noise to a team that's been pretty much whimpering, particularly this season. Nebraska playing their first game after firing Scott Frost. The Huskers have number 6 Oklahoma. Mickey Joseph's coaching this team for the first time. Do you expect the Cornhuskers to look substantially different in such a short period of time under a new coach?
I think it's hard to change the culture overnight. That's a difficult thing to do. But sometimes, man, when you just get new juice and new energy and the players respond really, really well. Listen, Nebraska's not the best roster and their defense is atrocious. So they're not going to turn it around and all of a sudden be great. But how about the decision? Like, have y'all, Tony, Mike, think about if you've got 21 days left on your coach's contract and you're the AD and you can save yourself $7.5 million. $7.5 million, and you say, no, 3 weeks is worth $7.5 million, something's really wrong. There's got to be something extremely toxic in that environment. So to fire your own, son that came home with Scott Frost, winning a Heisman Trophy, that quickly, something was really, really wrong. I think this will get them in a more positive direction, but then I think they're going to go to the coaching realms and Matt Campbell or somebody that's really, really proven. Guys, the difference between the Big Ten and the SEC is so stark now. The money is so big. Any coach like Luke Fickell or Matt Campbell or these coaches that are big-time coaches that are playing in other conferences, this gives them a chance to close that gap, make more money, and be in a position where they're going to position themselves well for the college football playoff success in the future.
I'll get to your question in a second. I just want to add parenthetically here, I'm glad I listened to you and Wilbon. Did you both say that Oregon was number 25? Am I nuts? Or did Oregon lose to Georgia early in the season by 3,000 points? And they're 25? And now I'll get to the question, David, because that's your school. Yeah, I actually think more of Alabama after the close win over Texas the other week. I thought the quarterback made such great plays on that last drive. Are you with me to think more about Alabama, or are you going to say to me, Tony, you're an idiot? You're an idiot.
I mean, I was taught in the South to respect my elders. I don't know that I can use idiot, but I would say, Tony, that I would say maybe you were drinking a little something to look at that game and go, man, I feel better about Alabama. I think there's real question marks now. When you look at their offensive line, I think I don't think they're as great as they've been. Receivers, they're not as great and as explosive as they've been. Bryce Young pulled one out of the fire, and he's still a big-time playmaker, but his longest completion was 23 yards, and he looked very human for most of the game. 14 penalties. So I just think I think Alabama's got a bunch of things that they're going to have to get cleaned up. But I do know this. From watching Alabama, they used to have such a big gap of talent between everybody else and them. That's gone. Like, Georgia's closed that gap. A&M's closed that gap. Ohio State's closed that gap. They're way more human than they've used to be. They're still a great football team, but they're going to have to reinvent themselves offensively in their thought process, because they can't be what they were a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Nick Saban will do it, but I just don't look at Alabama and go, man, they're the best team in the country. Clearly, I think there's several teams we could talk about and poke holes and find deficiencies in all of them.
David, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
App State.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. You can catch college game day starting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Let's take one last break. Still to come. What should the Astros expect from the return of Justin Verlander tonight?
Probably a quality start, 7 innings, 8 strikeouts. Is it wishful thinking to believe that my Bears could upset Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in Lambeau Sunday night? No, it's not.
I would say that the App State win over A&M is great, but when they went into the big house,
Michigan.
they beat Michigan. Miami Dolphins traded an unhappy Fitzpatrick to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a first, a fifth, and a sixth-round draft pick. Fitzpatrick had requested a trade after playing 4 different positions in a 59-10 loss to Baltimore and feeling he was being used wrongly. Nearly everyone scoffed at the Steelers, but at free safety, Fitzpatrick had 5 interceptions and a forced fumble that season. He's gotten better with time. Last week against division rival Cincinnati, Fitzpatrick had 10 solo tackles and a pick-6 TD, plus he blocked the potential game-winning PAT, forcing overtime where the Steelers won.
Tony, you know what? The Steelers are never bad. They never pick first. Not since, I think, Terry Bradshaw. They're always picking at the middle or the bottom. They scout better than anybody, right? Because they scout the college draft and they scout the NFL personnel who other people think are done. The Steelers are superior in that way.
Happy trails to the Aces sweeping the Sun. Connecticut's Alyssa Thomas had the first triple-double in WNBA Finals history last night as Connecticut staved off elimination and ruined Wilbon's continual prediction of a Las Vegas sweep. Thomas got 16 points, 15 rebounds, and 11 assists in Connecticut's 105-76 drubbing of Las Vegas, prompting Las Vegas coach Becky Hammond to say admiringly of Thomas, quote, "She's a beast. I went to a UFC fight the other night. I would not want to get in the cage with her. She's just tough, unquote. Connecticut has won elimination games in these playoffs against Dallas, Chicago, and now Las Vegas, and Game 4 is Sunday in Connecticut.
This is good for the league, Tone. I predicted a sweep, but I didn't want to see one, and now I'm happy to see Game 4. I would be thrilled to see Game 5.
One update, Justin Herbert has fractured rib cartilage. He is now day-to-day. Wilbon, let's go quickly to the big finish if you could. Astros ace Justin Verlander expected to pitch tonight for the first time since August 28. What do you expect?
He's got the sorry A's, and he's got him at home. I expect a quality start. Celtics owner Wick Grossbeck tells the Boston Globe that he believes his Celtics have been overrated. What do you think of that?
No, they were in the finals last year, and they got better. The Rays fielded Major League Baseball's first all-Latino lineup on Roberto Clemente Day. Your thoughts?
Thought it was very cool, and all wearing 21. Clemente's 21. That resonates with me, a kid who grew up watching Clemente. Serena posted to Roger Federer, "Welcome to the retirement club." Your thoughts?
That she's going to retire. It's time. She knows it. Last one, Bears at Packers on Sunday night. Who you got?
You know who I got, but he owns us. I can't even dispute that till we beat him. Makes me